All right, guys, today's episode is going to be all about how to fix injuries, different types of injuries, how to prevent them, what to do when you get injured, how to fix old nagging injuries. I think this is something a lot of people deal with, and when I'm talking to people, it's often something that's completely holding them back from achieving their, dream physique or just hit their health goals. They'll say, oh, I can't work out because I have this knee injury, or oh, this shoulder injury really set me back, or I can't exercise, I have low back pain, whatever it is. And it's something I've dealt with a lot, and over the years I've figured out pretty much a system that I have to deal with injuries and what to do when I get injured or to fix any parts of my body that are tight and not feeling well. So I'm going to go over some of them, and there is some pretty cool science on this, but overall there's just going to be what has worked really well for me, what I've told to other people who have gotten injured, and it's worked really well for them. So mainly what I'm talking about here is not some like blunt force trauma injury, right? If somebody hits you in the head, that's definitely an injury, but that's not really what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about, oh, you tweaked your knee and your knee has lingering pain, or you think, oh, I always got a bad left shoulder, and whenever I bench press, it just gives me trouble. Or my low back always hurts, I just can't do stuff because whenever I squat, my low back hurts. Those type injuries are mainly what I'm talking about. We will go over some stuff that will work, if you just get simply injured. So let's talk about it. So basically, when you have an injury, the science is starting to show us that it's pretty complex in terms of pain. How our body feels pain, what is going on when you have maybe a shoulder injury or something like that. So let's use a shoulder injury for, reference. So if somebody comes to me and they say, hey man, I hurt my shoulder, or I just always have shoulder pain, what should I do? If you go to an orthopedic surgeon, they will almost immediately tell you to go get surgery on that shoulder. And we have a study right here done on people getting MRIs and they have tears in their labrum, which is a muscle in your shoulder. And the results are all over the place. And what I mean by that is there are people with no pain that have tears in their labrum. There are definitely people with pain that have tears in their labrum. It doesn't mean just because if you have a tear in your labrum or maybe even some scar tissue in your knee or a tear in your knee that you have pain, first of all, and then it also doesn't mean that you need surgery. This is how Western medicine views these type of things. Right now, today, I have no pain in my shoulders. I can overhead press weight, I can bench press weight, I can do whatever. If I went to an orthopedic surgeon right now and said, oh, my shoulders hurt, can you do a scan on them? I bet you all my money, they would say, hey, we saw some slight tears in your labrum and you should get a surgery. So that is one thing right there. If you just go to a normal doctor, they're probably gonna push you towards surgery because that's what they do. Nothing against that. Sometimes that is needed for sure, but for most people, it's not, and we'll get into why. The first thing you'd want to look at when you hurt an area or an area is tight or sore is your range of motion. So we'll post some videos of this later on TikTok and YouTube and stuff. But with shoulders, you need to assess that joint's range of motion. Do you have overhead range of motion? Can you put your arm next to your ear and have it up with your arm straight? Do you have internal and external rotation of your shoulder? Can you internally rotate your shoulder, and can you externally rotate your shoulder? If not, if you go here and you can't internally rotate your shoulder, well, okay, you know that you're missing some basic range. With your knees and hips, can you squat barefoot, feet shoulder width apart? Can you squat down without your heels coming up? If the answer is no, well, you need to work on some of these basic things. That's how human beings are supposed to work. So fix that type of stuff before you look at any surgery. How do you fix that? There is a system called FRC, Functional Range Conditioning. It's also sometimes called Kinstretch. This is what all the elite athletes are doing right now. It's been known about for 5-6 years. It's really been popular, but the normal physical therapists and orthopedic surgeons do not know anything about FRC or Kinstretch. So there's tons of free info on YouTube. You need to look up FRC shoulder, FRC low back on YouTube and start doing those exercises. It's not as simple as stretching, and it's not as simple as a strengthening movement. It's sort of complex in a few different ways, but that is really how you start to regain full range of motion and usable range of motion in those tissues. This is my go-to whenever I hurt myself. I've had pinched nerves in my neck. I've had AC joint sprains. I've had, arm bars that have gotten hyperextended to where my elbow's messed up. I've gotten heel hooked in jiu-jitsu and my LCL has been messed up. I've gone through a lot of injuries. I treat my body well, but I do a lot of stuff that's sort of rough on the body, so I know for a fact this works. The other thing you can start doing is heat. There is a lot of evidence now showing that icing, while it may work for acute injuries and acute swelling, it's not really the move to ice every day. You don't really want to do that. It's been debunked in studies. Heat is actually really what you want to go for old injuries or just sore muscles. So I would say get in a sauna, get in a hot tub, get your body warm. That's really going to help because that's going to give you more blood flow. The other thing that obviously I'm a huge fan of is having your nutrition dialed in. How your body is healing and how it's getting your body transports nutrients to different parts. So if your shoulder is inflamed, your body is literally trying to transport nutrients through blood flow to that area to heal it. Your body is trying to heal at all times. If you do not support that with proper nutrients, your body is going to be fighting an uphill battle and your healing will be slowed. So having good nutrition, plenty of protein, plenty of water, good gelatinous filled collagen protein, beef isolate protein, bone broth, all these things are going to help your body. There are some supplements that I'm a huge fan of whenever I get injured. I mean, I take some of these all the time, but if I have a friend who's getting injured in jiu-jitsu, N-acetylglucosamine, for sure. There are studies showing N-acetylglucosamine is going to help the synovial fluid production. Synovial fluid is what is around our joints. It's how our bodies get nutrients to our joint. The only way synovial fluid is transported into the joint capsule is through movement. This is why we'll get into some of the injury prevention stuff, but if you don't have a joint by joint movement routine that you're doing a few times a week, I do mine every single day, you are lacking. You are not driving the right amount of synovial fluid into those joint capsules, and over time, they're going to get brittle, they're going to break. This is why people have hip injuries, knee injuries, shoulder injuries, reoccurring. They're not getting synovial fluid into the joint capsule. So you can look that up on your own. What is synovial fluid? Where is it from? How does it get there? But N-acetylglucosamine can definitely help with that. And then the next thing we're going to look at is some topical stuff. Now, this is, as somebody who sells a CBD pain salve, that is treating the symptom. You are not going to fix your shoulder injury if it's some deep shoulder injury with our CBD pain salve. Now, if you have some, I tweaked my shoulder a little bit, it's a little bit inflamed, and you rub some of our CBD salve on there, you are going to feel great, and that might clear up in a few days. But if you have some injury that's been around for years, bad salesman right here, but look, you're not just going to be able to rub something on it and for it to completely go away. You need to look at movement. You need to look at your joint range of motion. You need to look at these factors. That's how you're going to heal this stuff. So, now you've started to move your joint, you've started to get some of the basic inflammation out of there and started to give your body sort of the tools that it needs to heal. So once the pain goes down a little bit with those protocols, FRC, heat, sauna, nutrition, movement, using some topical stuff, now what you need to do is strengthen the area. Corrective exercise is how you prevent injury, and it is how you fix injuries. For so many people, they have pain in, let's say, the front of their shoulder. That is simply because your low trap is not firing, your upper trap is taking all the burden. You need to look on how to strengthen your lower trap, strengthen your rotator cuff, and start to get strong so your body isn't injured. If you have knee and hip issues, you need to fix your squat and lunge pattern. There's some really good info on this. The knees over toes guy has really popularized this. And basically what he's saying is true. I mean, if you don't have ankle range of motion, and you don't have calf flexibility and strength, and you don't have hip flexibility and strength, what do you think is going to happen to your knee? It's not going to be good. And people lose this as they get older because they don't go through these basic human movements of a squat, of a lunge, of a hip hinge. They don't go through these movements whatsoever, and then their bodies get injured. In modern day society, how we work most of the time is right here. And this is just not a good position to be in terms of making your joints healthy. So you need to find the corrective exercise protocol for your injury. And this is going to be different for everybody, but there's tons of good info on YouTube out there. Kelly Starrett is someone you can look up, and then look up your injury. Kelly Starrett shoulder, Kelly Starrett knee, Kelly Starrett hip. There's a lot of corrective exercise stuff that he's put out for years. The other thing that's not available to everyone, but it's something I do once every other week, is I go get deep tissue body work. This is one of the best things you can do to prevent any injuries and just sort of heal stuff up. Last week, I had sort of a tight upper trap muscle, and I got some deep tissue on it. This isn't the type of massage that's like nice and fun and, oh, you feel so great. I mean, it feels good sometimes, but most of the time it's brutal. It's not fun. And that is going to really, really help and just bring your body into this healing state. So the other thing we need to look at is, I see a lot of people, they'll sprain their ankle or something and they go to immobilize it. All the science right now is telling us this is not the right thing to do. If you are injured and it's not some very, very bad injury, a broken bone or something like that, if you just sprain something, all of these sports science research is showing us that you actually don't want to immobilize it anymore. If LeBron James sprains his ankle today, they will not have him in a cast and completely immobilizing that ankle. You want to actually continue to move that ankle through its ranges of motion in a pain-free way, or just pushing past a tiny bit of pain. And once you get movement in there, it will heal quicker and you won't have as much basically lag in the tendon and ligament strength there. So that is a huge factor in this. The other thing that you really need to look towards is just getting strong overall. Lifting weights, a lot of people see as something that could potentially give them an injury, where this could not be further from the truth. One of the things our bodies want is stability. So when you say, oh, my neck is tight, or I got knots in my traps, your body often is trying to create stability, and it's going to do that through either being actually strong or creating trigger points so it can have stability. Because we don't just want our bodies don't want our neck like flopping around like this. This is why a lot of people have severe trigger points right here. They're not strong. I've posted videos on my neck strengthening routine and my back strengthening routine. These are huge factors in staying injury free. So for anybody that gets injured, I'm always telling them you need to find an FRC therapist, preferably, or just find all the info free on YouTube. Start taking your shoulder, knee, hips through those ranges of motion, doing your controlled articular rotations, driving synovial fluid into that joint capsule, and then you need to get strong. So you need to heal up those areas, and that is really how you start to fix injuries. Injuries are something that holds so many people back, and they just seem to not do anything about them. They just seem to kind of hope that they're going to go away. That's not really how the body works. You have to put a pretty good amount of time into these injuries. I'm someone who deals with shoulder injuries, and so I put an immense amount of time into stretching out my pecs before I warm up, before I work out. I put time into developing my internal and external rotation strength in my shoulders. I put time into working my lower traps. I put time into strengthening my neck, and I do this every day. And what it allows me to do is surf, go to jiu-jitsu, and lift weights in the same day. That is what you need to do. You can't just sit idle and say, yeah, I'm always dealing with old knee injuries. Cool, what are you doing about it? Where is your ankle range of motion? What have you done for that area? People just break down, and it's really important, guys, that you are able to fix injuries, treat little stuff on your own, and get stronger. As you get older, one of the most common ways that people die is they actually die from injury. They get old, they fall, they break their hip, and it just leads to death. I mean, this is just what happens to people. So many people go out this way. So if you aren't doing a movement routine every single morning or working on different types of movement, you are severely lacking and you're putting your health at risk. So it might seem silly now to do some of these corrective exercises, especially if you don't have pain. You're like, why do I need to do corrective exercise? Trust me, as you get older, this stuff will pay dividends. So if you have any questions, let me know below. I'll try to help you and do videos on specific areas of the body. But if you start with that stuff that I just highlighted right there, you're gonna start to be more injury-free. You're gonna feel better. And when you tweak something from, doing something sick like snowboarding and falling, you'll be able to handle it on your own and you won't get freaked out. So let me know if this helps you. That's it for today's episode of Santa Cruz Medicinals Radio. Peace.